Now we're going to talk about the negative cognitions because they're pretty powerful. And I wanted you to see where we're going with the positive. In the negative cognitive state, like the positive interrupters, there are many reasons they come in. There are many reasons why your client might be feeling this way. To allow them to see this sheet, to give it to them or have it as a PDF will allow them, like the list of emotions and words, it actually helps them to land accurately with where they are feeling in a way that they may not have been able to communicate to you with as much accuracy and sensitivity to what they're feeling. So here are the negative voices and cognitive states. And again, they all have titles for each experience. There's the negative voices and cognitions around safety and vulnerability, around control and choices, around responsibilities, and then there's just an add-in. Now, these are just some, and they are grief-focused, yet this list can be added to. And the sense of control and choices with the negative voices and the cognition will come in, especially when someone is dealing with anxiety and grief. And anxiety is one of those things that just comes in so quickly when someone is grieving. And that anxiety, when it comes in, is powerful enough to create phobias, to create the inability to join community, to get help, to feel so stuck that all they want to do is shut down and shut in. And by the time you got someone in your office who is talking about their grief and their anxiety, it's very possible that they have started taking medication to be able to even make the move. One of my clients, his name is Ray. He was one of those people I just described. He could not leave his house. He had lost his mother and his father 6 months apart. But not only that, this was during the pandemic. And so he lived in the States and they lived abroad. He was unable to travel to them for the ritual of the funeral. He was unable to be there for their burial. He was unable to be with other family members who also lived abroad. And he lived in a very small apartment in Idaho, and he had some friends there, but he was really just taken over by his anxiety and by the grief that took him away from himself, so much so that he no longer recognized who he was. And so the negative voices and the negative cognitions and the trickster all had a play in what was going on with those negative voices. Those negative voices included, I am out of control. I am bad. Those negative voices included, I will never be the same person I was. Those negative voices also included, I want to die. And though he was not suicidal, he wanted the pain to die. And we needed first, before we did anything else, was to identify those negative cognitions, which is why when I talk about this is something you can do early on with your clients, and you might want to, because it gives you a wealth of information about what they're thinking and how their negative thoughts are really interrupting and where their tricksters are. And this particular guy, he was in business for himself, and he was able to work during the pandemic, but when he lost his parents and he could not go and honor their deaths and be part of that ritual, his self-employment faltered. And by the time he was seeing me, he was getting family support to just make the rent. They are the ones, his family, who reached out to me to get him help. And it was phone sessions, because this was still COVID, phone and Zoom, although it started with phone because his anxiety was so high that he couldn't manage to be seen. What I realized was that he was unkempt. He had not showered. He was not taking care of himself in any way. The depression mixed with the anxiety caused him to such despair. And some people might say, well, he should be hospitalized. And perhaps that's true. But remember, it was the middle of the pandemic, and the hospital was not a place someone could safely go. I'm telling you this because by starting with the cognitions and by teaching him about his negative cognitions and his positive cognitions and the trickster, he was able to begin to interrupt those negative cognitions just by beginning to think differently and taking small steps, taking one shower every couple of days, making his bed, brushing his teeth, just simple tasks. And as he began to see, okay, I can do these simple tasks, his brain began to come back to him. And those neural pathways began to form. And the neuroplasticity that he needed actually began to work in his favor. And the trauma that he was experiencing, the grief he was experiencing, we were able to then begin with some role play, and we started to do some scripting, and the letter writing actually allowed him, the letters that we did actually within role play to his parents, he sent to his loved ones abroad, and they actually created a new family ritual. And this was part of the healing of his grief, where they each added to this letter, talking about what they loved about their parents and what they missed. And they actually created an online funeral ritual that enabled him to begin his healing. And I'm happy to report that though the anxiety is still there, he was able to recapture his business, his support system, and he is now traveling abroad and will be able to say goodbye in the way that he needed to with his family members. And that's how knowing about negative cognitions and positive interrupters can really help you think outside of the box with your clients.